People who interview job applicants. What's your best things were going well until story. He complained about how there are too many poofters at his current job in retail. I asked him to repeat himself and he laughed and said, "Well, you know what they're like." You should have seen the look on when I told him I was gay and I didn't think he would be a good fit for the company. It's been 10 years, but it's so depressing to think people think exposing their prejudice at an interview will help the monsieur. On the positive side, at least he showed his true self before he was hired. Dodged a bullet. Was going well until she suddenly says, "I don't know why people think interviews are so hard. Like all you have to do is be normal for 10 minutes. Just don't talk about your genital herpes or whatever other STD you have." This was an interview for a residency position as a doctor. Not sure where she ended up, but not with us. Greater than not sure where she ended up. Scrubs. When I was becoming an assistant manager, I had to sit in on an interview. My boss took a look at the guy's resume and went into the usual line of questioning. At one point, he asked why the interviewee had left his previous job. The interviewee said he quit. My boss then asked another series of questions, which eventually caused the interviewee to slip up and say that he had not quit, but rather had been asked to leave. The interviewee got up and left once he realized he had been caught in a lie. After he was gone, my boss turned to me and said something like, "Yeah, no. I saw the felony in alternative school and really wanted to give him a chance. He was doing fine until I caught him lying." What's an alternative school? Is it for kids with behavioral issues or similar? I've never heard the term. I am guessing so. We have those in my country. We kinda just call them a courser by their name so it doesn't sound as bad when we tell people. I asked the applicant about their strengths and they spoke about how result-focused they were. Going well so far, and then they started starring examples of unethical things they did to get the job done. Bribing customers, sharing misleading information, etc. Clearly that was the end of that interview. They probably thought it was normal because no one had ever told them it was wrong. Hiring some senior devs. On paper, one candidate sounds great. In the interview, we have a 15-minute window for a challenge. 5-minute introduction to a new, pretty rare, programming environment and language and a business problem. Monsieur, how would you solve this problem? You don't have to code. Just describe what you'd be looking for. What you do. Can I call my partner? Quote. Whole room blinks. Did you hire their partner? They wanted to, but the partner also wanted to call his partner. I would answer Stack Overflow. I had an applicant tell me during the interview that her mother is outside and if I should now bring her mother in to chat some more. This applicant was interviewing for her first employment as a full medical doctor. It amazes me that this is a lot more common than it should be. Application was really good. Phone interview was going well, open availability and eager to start. We used to ask, can you pass a drug test and a background check? It's not a question that we ask anymore. But the applicant responded with, due to some questionable life choices over the weekend, I won't be able to pass either for the foreseeable future. The phone interview happened on a Wednesday. I like this. They're pretty open about it. But if you're smoking something like weed, that can stay in your system for longer than the weekend. The interviewee responded honestly, which a lot of people possibly wouldn't. Well, they're right. Even if they'd taken it on the Friday, they'd still fail on the Wednesday. The candidate went on a 5-minute rant about his parents and how much he hated the monsieur. Not sure what set him off on that one. But crazy is not a good look. We had a guy, 40s, that we hired tell the room he was going home to kill his parents because they decreased his allowance to $1,500 a month on top of paying his living expenses. Boss called the cops. Guy got unruly. Cops used their taser. Maybe he confused his interview and therapist session. The therapist must have been pretty confused. My first professional job was an HR manager at a small factory. I was interviewing an applicant for a job in our quality control unit. During the interview his cell rings and he stops the interview and takes the call. He ends the call and tells me he just got another job offer and accepted the position. He proceeds to tell me his buddy is in the lobby and would be perfect for the job he was interviewing for with us. He wanted to go get him to take his spot at the interview. I could not believe what I had just witnessed. I declined to interview his buddy as he had not applied for the job. Some people are unreal. Shit, I'd have interviewed him purely out of respect for his mate's gigantic brass balls. There was this one guy the first liked, but my boss didn't. I would have hired him though. He said he was lazy. Probably more lazy than anyone they ever met. But he was also driven and a bit of an expert in his area. This means, in his words, that he will always find a way to do a task faster and with less effort, but with better results. Isn't there a Bill Gates quote to similar effect? Quote not, but I think Gates in an interview stated that he usually gives the hardest tasks to the laziest people, because they will find a way to do it quickly and efficient. Not my story. One from a friend. She was doing first-round interviews, screening for a role when a dude from a dating app who pumped, dumped and ghosted just a few weeks earlier walks through from reception. Turns out he was using a fake name on his profile. She described it as an Abe Simpson moment where he walked through the door, had a sudden realization and did a 180 straight out the door without saying a single word. Panel. So you put Industry 4.0 on your CV. So you have some knowledge about it? Interviewee. Yes, I do. Panel. How do you think it could be applied here? Quote. Interviewee. Panel. Where or how do you think it could be applied? Quote. Interviewee. Starts spouting off some stuff about using CAD as if it was some amazing new thing. If you're going to put BS on your CV, at least make sure you know something about the topic. Like what it is for a start. One of my favorite things in the world is to ask candidates directed questions about shit on their resume and watch them turn white as a ghost. Me. Oh, I see here that you were involved in the implementation of Mega Tool at your former company. Can you tell me about your part in that implementation and how you use the tool? Quote. Candidate. Asterisk less than stammers and stutters greater than asterisk. And at that point you realize that they were only peripherally involved in the tool at all and had almost nothing to do with the implementation of it. About 20 years ago I was working at a vocational school. New instructors were required to give a sample lecture as part of the interview process, and the other instructors would be the audience. We would let them talk for a bit, then start interrupting with questions. Easy ones at first, then getting harder until we decided they'd had enough. Usually they were judged not by their answers, but by how they handled the question. One day we had a guy in who chose to lecture on computer hardware. He started off okay, until the question started, when my buddy reached into a box, pulled out a hard disk, and said, "What's this?" And the dude couldn't answer. The interview ended soon after. That actually sounds like a really cool interview process. I like that. Was interviewing a guy for an IT job at a healthcare-related company a few years ago. Things were going great until the end of the interview when he informed us that something was going to come up on his background check, so he was just going to come clean about it now. He proceeded to tell us how he was fired and prosecuted for stealing intellectual property and company confidential data. Needless to say, we did not end up hiring him. Monsieur spat into his hand and held it out for me to shake. Was he 5 years old? Asked a warm-up question to an applicant and they went about it for 20 minutes without stopping or letting me interject to ask any of the main questions. At one point I interrupted them and said something along the lines of, "That's great. Let's move to another topic," just to be told that they were not done. Hadn't gotten to the point yet and then proceeded to keep talking about the same thing for the remainder of the interview without me ever getting to ask any relevant question. filibuster until they have to hire you. Can tell a story of my mom who in her career did some interviews. Everything went well until the interviewed person repeatedly said the word internship wrong while applying for an internship. At first she thought that the person just did a mistake, but then she began to realize that he generally didn't know. English isn't my first language and I don't know how you could say internship wrong, but in my language it's practicum, and the person said praxis. Those words don't really sound the same but come from the same family. I've confirmed the location of praxis, but I cannot confirm the existence of praxis. He started talking about anger management issues. We try to support mental health as much as possible, so this isn't an automatic no. We asked him how he copes with this. He said he shuts down, becomes withdrawn and may be rude to colleagues and customers. Yeah, that's a no from me. I was interviewing an applicant with my coworker, who would be the person's immediate supervisor. At one point during the interview, the applicant brought up that he'd just gone to his uncle's funeral the previous week. We were like, "Oh man, that's terrible. We're sorry," etc., and gave him our condolences. He waved his hand at us and said, "Oh, that's okay. Now almost everybody in my family is dead. There's just my father left. When he dies, I won't have to go to any more funerals. Can't wait. Really, it would be a relief." I know interviews are nerve-wracking and a lot of people babble a bit when nervous. But damn, that was just such a weird thing to say. When the guy left, my coworker and I looked at each other in silence for a while. Then he said, "Imagine him blurting out something like that while talking to a client." Needless to say, we went with another applicant who was just as qualified. Basically they said all the right shit but were taking a while to answer each question. Then I noticed them texting someone. Turns out they were asking a friend for all the answers. Immediately turned him down, but some seriously stealth texting. I had a job on lock. Went to take the drug test, which I was faking because weed. Fake pee came with little plastic bottle with cap that I had in my undies. Went and unscrewed the tops of each container, poured fake pee into drug test container, and I look down to realize the caps are exactly the same but different colors and I can't remember which is which. I took a guess and took it to the lady. She took one look and said, "How are you going to give me the wrong cap back?" I said, "Have a nice day, ma'am." Later I came to find out that the job didn't care if I smoked weed at all. No one is paying for a piss test if they don't care. Also, discreet urine samples don't come with the same caps as piss test cups. That would defeat the purpose of being discreet. That's not necessarily true. If they have a company policy of on-hire and after-accident drug testing, that alone can save the company a lot of money on insurance. With many organizations, it's a way to catch out people that are untrustworthy. They say, "Do you ever do drugs?" And when the person says nope, don't even know what they are. Rooks. Nope. Doesn't ring a bell. They hit them with the drugs test. If the person then comes back positive, it shows they can't be trusted. But if they were honest from the outset by saying, "I enjoy the occasional drug binge," and the test confirms that, it at least shows they're honest. For what it's worth. Just gonna save this and come back to it later in case any of my past interviewers posts about me. It was going well until I brought up the story when I forged my manager's handwriting in temperature logs and lied to him about it. I was pretty sure that was a damn good accomplishment since we passed the inspection. Until I said it out loud. Not an interviewer but an interviewee. I was 10 meters late because I went to the wrong store. I didn't interview a job applicants, but for one job they interviewed two of us at the same time for the same position, which was worker at gas station. They asks questions and for one I would answer first, then he'll answer next one first, and so on. It's my first job interview ever, as I just finished high school and the guy the first was up against was more qualified in every way. So one question was, what would you do if we'd find out that our station manager is stealing stuff? from station or selling them to put money in his pocket. I said I would report him to his supervisor. This company has chain of stations in country, and for every region there is the someone who supervises the specific region. Same as we workers answer to gas station manager, he has to answer to his region supervisor. They explained this all when they introduced us and told us about company. The other guy's answer to this question was, I would blackmail the manager that if he doesn't include me in it I would report. Hi monsieur. I'll finish with the fact that I was the one who got the job. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.